Hello, so this recording is going to look at some of the problems from an events management perspective with measuring the contribution of events, because it's not easy in this particular sector. So first of all, if we look at this particular diagram, which is looking at GVA for various sectors. So GVA is gross value added, and in the last recording I explained how this was a way of actually measuring some of the economic contribution by each sector. Now, you can't actually see events in here at all. Now, if we look through some of these sectors, we can see that, maybe events might fit in there in entertainment services. It might also fit into business services as business events. So there are places where it maybe fits, but there isn't something obvious for event management. So there are various problems with measuring the contribution of events. So the problem basically is that events are a composite sector. They're often made up of different kinds of things. So for instance, there are events that take part in hotels. There are major business events and there are specific venues for those. But it's basically all over the place. And so, we don't have one standard industrial classification code for this. And therefore, it would be very difficult for someone to actually kind of go, well, this is what the contribution of events are to the UK economy. So in terms of solving the problem, there are some types of event activity that's measured at a national level, and I'll mention some of that in a moment. But if it's not measured at the national level, there are other ways. So you can have a firm could measure its own contribution, but they're not likely to do that or be able to do that. Sometimes an academic institution is engaged to measure it, and I'll show you an example at the moment of work that's been done at Bournemouth University. Could be a private sector consultancy firm. And DCMS, so the Department of Digital Culture, Media and Sport, they sometimes fund this kind of work, or can sometimes be funded by an event association or something in the event sector. So when we look at what's measured at a national level, conferences and exhibitions are one of the few sectors where we actually do have some data. Now, these are captured as part of tourism. So you can see at the bottom there, this comes from the UK Tourism Satellite account from the Office of National Statistics. So that captures some events, but not all. Okay, and also you can sort of see that, there's sort of the green areas I've got there, those are potentially events too. So, it's a bit of a messy picture, really, still. This is a report that was undertaken by academics at Bournemouth University. So Adam Blake is an economist, and he mostly specialises in the economic impact of tourism, but he does some work on events as well. And he was commissioned to carry this out. And actually, the person who previously taught on this unit also contributed to this report. She's now left the university. So this a report on destination music, basically it was looking at the music events industry and what its contribution was. And you can see you've got something like 7.7 million tourists visiting music events. They're spending 1.4 billion, and you get this economic contribution of 864 million out of this. So there's, quite a significant boost from music events in the UK. And then Britain for Events, which is I forgot what we call it. It's an organisation for the events sector. They have done these estimates, and you can see, from there they pull out there's quite a significant contribution. What's worth noting there is the contribution by conferences and meetings and exhibitions and trade shows, which are really quite significant. So a lot of that is business travel. So you perhaps begin to pick up that business travel is quite important. And but as it says at the bottom there, this is total expenditure, and economic contribution is not calculated in all cases. They haven't really kind of factored through really what the contribution is. And then this is one from the DCMS. I'm looking at the London 2012 Olympic Games. So this one, it goes into a bit more detail here. So you can see in the table here that they look at expenditure by visitors attending the games, and then they look at expenditure that is additional. In other words, they take away expenditure by visitors who would have come anyway. Okay, so you have to factor in sort of things like that when you're trying to work out what the contribution is. And then at the end there, the last column, they have, or the last two columns, they have the net expenditure taken into account, estimates of visitors staying away. So when you have a big event like an Olympic Games, you will find that some tourists who would have perhaps typically come to London or thought about coming to London might not come because they might perceive it to be busy and then stay away. So you have all these things that have to be taken into account when you're trying to measure the contribution. And one of the things they do in their report is they try to estimate the GVA from the Olympic Games. And you can see that the impact is not just while the Olympic Games was happening in 2012, but there's some impact before and afterwards as well. So it isn't just during the event. So for instance, some people might visit a place just to see where the games are going to be held. So people went to Weymouth where they held the sailing away events in order to kind of see, what's this place like which has got this event going to be taking place there. And then there's often knock-on effects afterwards because people come and they want to revisit and come back again to see other things. Okay, so that gives you a bit of an idea of some of the issues there and where there might be problems with measuring the contribution of events.